Hello, and welcome to the Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast, where we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them, they struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options. Not having a clear plan is the enemy, and using a proven tax deferral strategy, such as the Deferred Sales Trust, is the best way for you to exit farmland, businesses, cryptocurrency, real estate, save a fail 1031 exchange, a primary home, so you can defer millions of dollars of capital gains tax, and so you can help yourself or others create and preserve more wealth. Hey, I'm your host, Brett Swarts, and each episode I'm joined by some of the best real estate, financial wealth, cryptocurrency, and sometimes agricultural minds in the world, where they share their ideas, deal stories, and inspiration. So together we can make complex tax deferral strategies simple and passive income plans achievable. I'm excited about our next guest. He is the Chief Strategy Officer at Farmfolio, and he comes back to us with a diverse background in regards to asset allocation, as well as investing in different things that are going to help you create and preserve more wealth. He's been a full-time investor in real estate and agriculture over the last 8 years, and recently joined Farmfolio as the new Chief Strategy Officer. And he brings a multitude of skills after spending 18 years on Wall Street and a decade in the Silicon Valley, founding and working with some of the most innovative companies in the world, including Barclays Global Investors, Merrill Lynch, Credit Suisse, and Morgan Stanley, and so much more. Please welcome to the show with me, Peter Badger. Hey, Peter, how you doing?
Good, Brett. Thank you. How are you today?
Hey, I'm doing well. Great to have you on the show. Excited to dive into the topic at hand. We're talking about wise asset allocation. But before we go there, Peter, would you give us a little bit more about your story and your current focus?
Yeah, no, my story is simple. I spent 18 years on Wall Street. I drank the Kool-Aid, all about stocks and bonds and everything through derivatives. And after 18 years, I quit and started my own Silicon Valley tech company. Spent 8 years on a crazy, VC fundraising, Series A, Series B. Finally got acquired by Citrix Systems in Santa Clara in the Valley, and then was my beginning journey around real estate. And so the question is when you make, some money, where do you keep, your money for preserving it and growing your wealth over the long term? That was my journey the past 8 years.
Fantastic, Peter. And I think we've all been given certain gifts in this life. And I want you to go back to your younger days, maybe it's your university days, maybe it's your high school days. And I think these gifts have been given to us to be a blessing and help to others. So I'm curious, what are those one or two gifts that you believe you were given, and how does it help how you help and bless people today?
Yeah, I think from my side, I was actually inherited from my father the ability to kind of look at the big picture and go down deep into, for instance, investment asset classes and help it explain this to people in a way that's understandable, so they can actually benefit from it. So I think one of my gifts is to basically be able to bring people down into an asset class and show them how it can benefit their lives for wealth building, or generally just living their life through passive income.
Very cool. And excited to dive into that exact part of it with wise asset allocation, and making complex things simple and make it in a way that's digestible financially, so we can all hopefully level up in our decision making here. So that being said, Peter, what's the number one secret to wise asset allocation?
Honestly, it's having one. Most people don't have one. So I think when we kind of look at most of the investors out there, they're normally in paper investment products, stocks, bonds, ETFs, mutual funds, the normal stuff that's publicly traded on Wall Street. My request of people is, do you actually have a wiser asset allocation? We make money from private and public company stock, and then you actually invested in real estate and other assets to actually keep, retain, and grow that wealth. So I think at the outset, have a strategy for your asset allocation and decide, yes, keep some stuff liquid in the stock markets, but then actually choose real estate and farmland and other real hard assets to have that wiser asset allocation strategy.
Okay, I love it. So my background is commercial real estate, right? And that's been like, I grew up in the business with my parents and rentals and cash flow and development in the Bay Area. Then I went to Marcus Millichap, fell in love with like multifamily on a big scale. And I love that your background was Wall Street, right? And the idea of diversification and not over concentrating, and making sure that you have enough liquidity, as well as the ability to, like I say, go collect the rent, right? Or a place that someone's living in, or maybe it's in the farmland industry, be able to grow crops and do different business. So talk about the difference between traditional Wall Street asset allocation and what you've come to help people at Farmfolio?
Yeah, so I think you kind of have to break up the area of Wall Street that's serving you, because honestly, there's the general population that just gets the ability to go to your kind of discount broker and buy you ETFs and mutual funds. You're not being served at all. Those with higher net worth, 3-5 million plus, they get a lot more strategies that the common people like us have never gotten before. So in reality, for everyday people, it's like the classic, the 60-40 equities versus bond story died 20 years ago. 60% equity, 40% bonds. When the stock market crashes, the bonds keep your wealth intact. That is all rubbish and outdated. So honestly, people are just told to have 80-90% equities, hold for the long term. And, even when it dips 30-40-50% in one of the major crashes, just hold on with your bare knuckles, don't sell out of it, and it'll come back and recover. That's really what we're told, isn't it? Over and over again from Wall Street marketing.
Right. And then what we're seeing right now is, inflation and, sitting in the bank, it's just, it's like your money's just burning out, the side of your window here. And so holding and owning large assets, right? Commercial real estate and farmland, different things like these things that are perhaps more tangible, right? Walk us through just your strategy with what a good asset allocation might look like in today's environment. Does it involve crypto? How much real estate is involved? How much stocks is it involved? Does it even involve bonds? What is your take on someone who's worth $5 million? They're a baby boomer, right? And they're doing well. They don't want their wealth to be, wiped out by inflation, and they also don't want to get overextended in too much debt or buying properties that don't make sense right now with value. So, give us your overall kind of feel where someone might be wise to allocate, and where does it look like?
Yeah, so let's kind of rebase a little bit. So when I made some money on Silicon Valley, added to my Wall Street property gains, I basically went out and trying to work out what is my own asset allocation. And I went through every major hard asset class. I was buying single family homes, multifamily buildings, mobile home parks, short term rentals at the beach or in major cities near hospitals where I'd get like regular income. I went through every possible thing, touched storage for a while. And ultimately, at the end of it, I realized, especially post pandemic, which actually, taught us a lot about our asset allocation strategies. Food and shelter have won out for me. That means multifamily apartment buildings and farmland or agriculture, because we all got to have a roof over our head. We always have to eat, and that really, those two asset classes have put me in good stead in the since the pandemic and throughout, and I believe into the future. And to your point, I think one of the other things to think about this is that the asset allocation for me, we're all different. I have 4 pillars. Okay. Number 1 is stock market. I do keep it in equities because it's liquid. I can sell the ETF mutual fund or my Tesla shares if I'm feeling a bit generous in the market to get into cash. And that's key. Always have some liquid funds that are hopefully invested in something that's going to beat inflation. Number 2, I have a good foundation in multifamily or US real estate. And then number 3 is farmland. I do overseas or international farmland because it's not correlated. We could chat about it in a second. And then number 4 is my play money, I call it, maybe 5 to 7%. So I've got some blockchain, crypto. I've got some asymmetric currency trades going on. That bucket, the 4th bucket, I don't mind if I completely lose it. Most of it is speculative in nature, but there are hype cycles in speculation. So choose the cycle.
Got it. Perfect. I love that. I love that breakdown. That's really helpful. So you got stock market with some liquidity, so traditional real estate, maybe investment real estate, farmland overseas. I think that's where I want to dive in now, because most of our clients, they know the stock market pretty well. They know the real estate very well. And they're learning about crypto for some who are really, really great at crypto. But that farmland one seems it's different. I love the way you said it. Like, people need a roof and they also need food. It makes sense, right? That's part of why multifamily is such a desirable asset, because we all need a place to live. So we feel good about investing in those, and obviously the supply and demand imbalance. But let's talk about farmland. So walk us through this, because this is kind of new to me. Break down that investment class for us right now, and the opportunities and maybe some general returns.
Yeah, so I think from my side, I went on this crazy journey for the last 8 years. I looked at all kinds of farmland or agriculture exposure. So most of us can kind of get into the public markets again. You can buy John Deere machinery, you can buy fertilizer companies, general public stocks. But again, the key here is to find a portion of your asset allocation which is not correlated with anything else, and that's farmland. Because when you think about it, real estate cycles can go up and down. They're all very local to the market you're in. Stock markets have a 7 to 12 year, crash cycle based upon where you're at in that cycle. Ultimately, for farmland and agriculture, people still need to eat. Choose permanent crops. I choose high demand permanent crops. So forget the row crop, the barley, the wheat, all the stuff that's done mass produced, in the Iowa cornfields. Go for permanent crops like avocados, citrus fruits like limes, coconuts. I mean, these things, you plant a tree, they harvest within 4 years, get to full harvest by year 8, and then they, basically print money or produce that can be sold for 20, 40, 60, 80 years in a row. So to me, the key is to find that permanent crop that's in high demand, will stay in high demand. We eat it every day in the supermarkets, and basically it's finding that piece of the
Got
asset
it.
allocation which is not
Got it.
correlated.
Got it. So talk about how by the way, farmfolio.net, it's farmfolio.net, farmfolio.net. How do you guys help people invest in these types of opportunities?
Yeah, so think about farmland in general. We believe you should at least have farmland ownership, as in hold title to farms. So most farming, agricultural today is like big, rich land, landowners, large private companies. Most people like us, the small little people, don't get access to that. So what Farmfolio does, we buy a farm that's already producing limes or coconuts or avocado or the fruit of choice, and that fruit is already being sold. It's being basically from overseas, South America, washed, packed, salted, exported to the US, Canada, Europe, and being sold in Walmart, Costco, Trader Joe's, the major retailers. And so the goal is we take those farms that produce that produce, we break it into individual parcels or lots, as we call it, and then you can own a lot. So instead of buying a single family home or single family rental on a plot of land in Texas, you can buy 220 producing Tahiti lime trees in Colombia, and they will give you the produce for year after year after year, being sold in the major
Okay,
retailers.
this is cool. This is cool. I'm digging it here, and I like me some avocado and some citrus fruits. So, what is the average return on these things? I get that it's safe, right? But what's the average returns? What are we looking at here?
Yeah, so it's like a single family rental. There's many aspects to that question to answer, but consider it like a single family rental. People mainly aim for 8% cap rate with leverage 13 to 15%. I mean, it depends on the crop type, the age of the trees. Therefore, the younger the tree, the less income it has because the less produce it has. The cost of the land, the cost of the labor, the country you're doing it in. There are some aspects to it, but generally consider titled farmland ownership in the Farmfolio model, similar returns to a single family home, but without the real estate cycles.
Yeah, I think this is like anything, right? When we're going to invest in something new or that we're not too familiar with, although what you're saying is you're breaking it down and making it really simple. It's you got to go ride the bike, right? You got to jump on, whether that be a cryptocurrency or the first rental or your first flip, your first big multifamily project, and you got to get with people like Peter Badger by like farmfolio.net who are doing this, who are studying it, who have the background and the diversification of thought of 18 years in Wall Street and Silicon Valley. So you have tech, you have Wall Street. I think you're the guy to help us with that, because otherwise I'd be like, I don't know, what am I buying here, Peter? Right? I'd have to have a guide like yourself walk us through that. So that being said, I want to shift quickly to capital gains tax, and because you have a unique background when it comes to helping or exiting me a big business that you exited, right? So what's been your biggest frustration when it comes to exiting highly appreciated assets, whether it be your business or crypto, maybe in farmland if it's part of the U.S. Or the 1031 exchange? What's the frustration there, Peter?
I think for me, I mean, most of us who work and live in Silicon Valley end up exiting our companies in Silicon Valley. And of course, California, federal, state, taxes, it's, you get a nice outcome and they take 50% off the top. And I think one of the keys actually is as you're, building your own company, move out of these high tax states. It doesn't make any sense. You can make so much more money by not being in a high tax state, and then at the end of that journey, making sure you move those assets quickly into hard assets like real estate. I mean, it's I did a bunch of selling private company stock, went straight into buying single family home portfolio, then a multifamily building, and then I did a bunch of 1031s and kept going up the food chain. So it's frustrating if you aren't in a low tax state, and it's frustrating if you don't know how to use those strategies quickly to rotate your wealth from public markets into real hard assets that you can benefit from depreciation and all the capital gains avoidance strategies out there.
Yeah. I think that's a key, right? Having the plan in place. I always say plan the exit plan before you actually exit, right? Or before you list the property or the business or whatever, right? As a reminder, 1031 exchanges don't work for businesses, right? And so we work with businesses all the time that are exiting and millions of dollars of tax, and now they can defer it. And the cool thing with the Deferred Sales Trust, for those who are learning about that for the first time, you can move funds back into another business or back into real estate or back in the stock market, into farmland, all these different, diversified portfolio of liquid investments or hard assets, all tax deferred, kind of like an IRA, kind of like a 401k. And for those who want to learn about that, you can go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. It's capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. That being said, Peter, are you ready for the lightning round?
Go ahead. I'm ready.
All right. If you're knowing what you know now, if you go back to your 25-year-old self, what's the one golden nugget you make sure to tell yourself to do?
Always have a mentor alongside you. You are never old enough or smart enough to not learn a lot more from a mentor in the topic you're trying to master. Excellent.
Question number 2, what's the number one book you've gifted or recommended the most in the past year?
EOS, the Entrepreneur's System. For those who are building businesses, you need a structure, you need a framework in everything you do. For those who are building a business, read about EOS, and Traction is the book. And it'll put you in good stead to grow your company to a reasonable level.
Excellent. Question number 3, what are you most curious about right now?
How to democratize farmland ownership. So you too can add a Farmfolio to your portfolio so you can have long-term 20, 40, 60-year passive income without being correlated to the stock markets or real estate cycles.
That's amazing. And I feel like we just scratched the surface on what we could have covered today. But maybe we'll have you back on to talk about that exact topic right there in detail. But the next question is this, favorite leadership quote or theme that you strive to live by?
Trust but verify. That is a Russian proverb. Don't look at the marketing brochures, glossy marketing brochures in anything, in Wall Street, in properties, in Airbnb, whatever the asset class is. Trust the brochure, but then go and verify the data and or theory of that investment opportunity.
Couldn't agree with you more. I say the same thing with the tax deferral strategies, right? You're hearing these things for the first time, like go look at it, trust that it could be real and it's there, but then go verify the evidence and the IRS audits and everything else that's associated with that. Love that, Peter. Last question for those who want to get in touch with you and want to find you. Can you remind them one last time what's the best place for them to find you?
Yep, I'll give my email, peter@farmfolio.net, or find our website at farmfolio.net and learn how farmland ownership is made easy for you and me.
Fantastic. Peter, thanks for being on the show. Thanks for sharing your wisdom with us. I appreciate the diverse background that you have and your passion for helping people get wise asset allocations, especially in the farm world. It's so cool. I'm fascinated by that. And I want to encourage you to keep using your gift of making complex things simple and helping people create and preserve more wealth in their finances. And for our listeners, I also want to thank you for being a part of the show, listening, or being a listener to the show. And hopefully you've gained some wisdom from Peter and myself today. And I want to encourage you to plan your exit plan before you exit. And if you're struggling or considering exiting cryptocurrency or a business or real estate, we believe the best time to plan is right now. It's never too early. You can go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com to learn about the Deferred Sales Trust and how that can help you defer millions of dollars of tax and invest into different asset types, classes, types, all tax deferred at any time. No rush of a 1031 exchange. Go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. Please rate, review, subscribe. And thanks to all of our listeners too who are also watching this on Expert CRE Secrets as well. We appreciate you out there. And